happen. So at that time, through General MacArthur and others, they felt that, in fact, General MacArthur was coined in saying the term, the very next World War we have will be the war of, not with people from planet Earth, but from aliens or people from other planets. And this man was, if we hadn't had him during World War II, we wouldn't be here today. Anyway, my father had laid the groundwork with theoreticians about the Philadelphia experiment and other experiments. What does that have to do with me? Other than the fact of that, all I can say is that if it wasn't for, he never told us kids this, and he kind of kept it secret until a couple of weeks before he died. I kind of regretfully say that. I don't agree with what he did on the other side of the pond in Nazi Germany, but I'll tell you one thing. I think he had a lot of guts in coming here and doing what he did. He was hated in his own land. In fact, there was a $1 million in gold reward for anybody who could kill him. Just bring the picture back of the dead person, and it never happened. Anyway, back to topic number one is dumb bases or deep underground military bases. We've been basically lied to, folks. We've been lied to a long time. Number one, the alien question. Nobody really knows the truth. We've been ruined by Madison Avenue, has painted a very unrealistic picture of what's going on with outer space aliens and the insider government, especially at Groom Lake. This particular facility, the hat shows, this wasn't the original insignia. This is kind of like a local fish wrapper type insignia. The original insignia had a skunk on it because I was part of the infamous skunk words. So anyway, this particular base originally is housed up to 117 live alien critters, or whatever you want to call them. Right now, it's not housing much of anything. Most of the stealth hardware has been removed. They moved it over to Kirtland Air Force Base. First of all, I want to tell you about aliens and the alien agenda. Back in 1954, under the Eisenhower administration, the federal government decided to circumvent the Constitution of the United States and form a treaty outside of the borders of the United States, within the borders of the United States, basically a treaty from entities outside of the borders of the United States, and it was supposed to be secret. It was called the Greada 1954 Treaty, G-R-E-A-T-A, Greada 1954 Treaty. That basically said that the aliens could take a few cows and test their implanting techniques on a few human beings, but they had to give detailed lists of the people involved, etc., etc. Slowly but surely, the outer space aliens slowly altered the bargain until they decided they wouldn't go by it at all. And back in 1979, this was a reality. The firefight occurred kind of quite by accident. I was involved in, we were building an addition to the deep underground military base at Del State, New Mexico, which, by the way, is probably the United States' deepest base. It goes down 7 levels over 2.5 miles deep. But at that particular time, we had drilled 4 distinct holes in the desert ground, and we were going to link them together with shape charge explosives. And then we were going to basically blow out large sections at a time. Well, when I was my job at that time was to go down in these holes, gather rock samples, check them for their particularity or particle count, give a detailed account of what kind of chemical explosive or plastic explosive to use, and then go from there. As I was headed down there, to my total surprise, we found ourselves amidst a large cavern that was already full of outer space space aliens, otherwise known as large grays. I was petrified, as most people might be. The only thing I could think of doing at the time was shooting at them. I killed 2 of them, but by the time I could reload and refire at that time, I had a Walter PPK pistol. I was an engineer, so I didn't feel I had to carry a gun underground. And I always carried this particular one. It's nice and small, and it's quite effective. But anyway, I emptied, killed a couple of these things, and at that time there was several other groups of people down there. It's about 30 people total, and 30 to almost 40 more came down there, and they all got killed. Basically what had occurred was that we surprised a whole under mountain base of existing aliens, and later I was to find out that we are not the highest on the food chain. These aliens have probably been living on our planet for different groups of aliens anyway, the short and the tall grays at least, for 1 million years living here. And this could explain a lot of the theory behind the ancient theory of ancient astronauts and these other kinds of things like that. Might also explain the bloodthirstiness of different kinds of native populaces like the Aztecs, etc., Olmecs and whatnot. Anyway, I got shot basically here, and their kind of weapon wasn't really a gun-like thing. It was kind of like a box that they had on their body that they could manipulate. And it burned a hole in me, and it split my ribs apart, and kind of gory and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it also gave me a high dose of rather nasty cobalt radiation. And I have cancer to this day. It's probably a result of it, although I can't prove that. Okay, the second part of my talk is topic number 2. It includes basically how this all occurred. How could we have possibly gotten involved? Well, we finished working with, we basically were beaten down by World War II, and I guess we were figured to be rather vulnerable as a populace in the world, which we were at the time. And I'm sure this is probably why we at our weakest point later found out to be vulnerable indeed, and so we were basically attacked. And of course, I think some of us, how many people here are familiar with the crash at Aztec, New Mexico? Raise your hand. Okay, in 1947, sometime in July of 1947, there was a large crash of a flying saucer. I believe it had 7 or 8 alien critters, or whatever you want to call them, aliens in them. 1 survived, and I believe 6 or 7 were, I don't know the whole story about the whole thing. And one of the artifacts I have here on the table was when I was a young child. I was about 14 at the time. I had a friend of my father was Sir Johnny Rawlins. He had a British Naval Intelligence. And he gave me, I asked him if I could have a piece of metal of this crashed disc, and my father protested violently. But anyway, Johnny Rollins said, "Sure, I can give you a little piece." And he gave me a little piece. I've had them in my collection ever since. That was kind of like the small start of a collection. But other than that, the UFOs really wasn't my bag until I started work at Area 51. Which is in the Nellis Air Force Base north of Las Vegas, Nevada. Going back in 1979 in a firefight, it took me about 2.5 years to recuperate, enough that I could go back to work. But I did. I survived, and I went back to work. Through Morrison Knudsen at EG&G, and Bechtel and Page and other construction outfits at the time. Anyway, at Area 51, they were testing all kinds of very peculiar spacecraft. I think you're Also, how many